Dave Aronberg is a Florida state attorney for Palm Beach County. He joins me now. Good to see you. Welcome to the show. So Chris Rock is refusing to file a police report. So is there no recourse, even though there were so many witnesses and it's on video?
When it comes to criminal charges, it's unlikely for the police to make an arrest or file charges when the victim is not cooperating. Now, we will do that in cases of domestic violence. In fact, in my office, more than half of the victims do not cooperate with us, but for public policy reasons, we'll file charges anyways if we have enough evidence independent of the victim. When it comes to this matter of a misdemeanor battery between two Hollywood stars, you don't have that same public policy reason for the police to go ahead and make an arrest or file charges without the cooperation of the victim.
What does a public policy reason mean?
What I mean by that is that when it comes to domestic violence cases, you see a lot of victims who are afraid of their attacker or have the Stockholm syndrome or have this cycle of violence where they return to them over and over again. So to break that cycle, we'll go ahead and we'll prosecute those cases, even when you have a reluctant victim. You don't have that dynamic here. You've got two Hollywood stars, they've got a past. And even though the evidence was clear, it was shown around the world, if you don't have the cooperation of the victim, you have less incentive for police to go after the defendant here. So I think that's what's going to happen. The police are just going to stand back and wait to see if Chris Rock changes his mind. And by the way, if he doesn't cooperate and the police file charges, the defense for Will Smith could be, well, this whole thing was staged. Chris Rock was in on it, although his apology sort of undermines that. But in the end, you would need Chris Rock to cooperate, to take the stand and say, no, I was not in on it. This was not staged. And if he's not helping, then this case is going nowhere.
All right, well, let's say it's another situation, and let's say it's not a battered wife, right? Let's say it's two Hollywood celebrities. One of them happens to be a woman who gets slapped and on stage like that. And nothing would have happened in that case either?
No, I do think that that could be public policy reason that you want to protect the victim. Here, you've got two dudes who are friends in the past, and one doesn't want to participate. But I do think that if there was a man, let's say it was a woman who was presenting, then and Will Smith got up there and slapped her across the face, I do think you would see a lot of public pressure to make an arrest in that case. You know, every case is different, and you make the decisions based on the facts of every case. I do think, though, that there is still recourse. Even without criminal charges, I think the Academy is going to sanction Will Smith. And, of course, he could still be sued civilly by Chris Rock, although I suspect that probably won't happen either.
It sounds like a double standard to me, though. Like, if it's a woman and she's a star, it's okay. But if it's a man and he's a star, it's not okay. And if it's a man and he's not a star, then it's not okay. But if it's a man and he is a star, then it is okay.
Yeah, it depends on who the person is. I mean, if it's Ronda Rousey presenting the award, then I don't think charges will be filed. That she's the MMA star. So I just think it's the person. But if it is a woman, yeah, I do think that would be taken into consideration. I mean, here you've got Will Smith, who weighs 20 pounds more than Chris Rock. And so a lot of people are saying, hey, charge this guy. He's got this privilege where he apparently thinks he's above the law, that he can go up on stage in front of the entire world and commit misdemeanor battery and not get charged. But if you don't have the cooperation of the victim here, you shouldn't expect to see a criminal charge. Now, again, if this was a domestic battery case, a domestic violence case, it would be much more likely to be criminally charged. But yeah, that's a criminal justice system. When it comes to a bully walking up the stage and committing a crime in front of their eyes, they didn't do anything about it. And in fact, a few of them defended Will Smith. It doesn't make Hollywood look very good.
All right, Dave Aronberg, thank you. We appreciate you breaking it down for us because it is a little confusing. Thank you.
I understand. No, thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.